Let's talk about buying your first home in Ireland. It can feel like a real uphill battle. You do everything right, you save up, you get your mortgage approval, but so often there's that one final hurdle, the funding gap. Today, we're going to break down the First Home Scheme, a tool designed to help you get right over that finish line.
So let's just paint a picture here, one that's probably pretty familiar to a lot of you. You've worked your socks off, you've scraped together that 10% deposit, and you've even got your mortgage approval in principle. You are so close. But then you do the math, and you realize there's a shortfall, a gap between what the lender will give you plus your deposit and the price of the home you want. It's that last hurdle that's just so frustrating, and it stops so many people dead in their tracks.
And that right there is exactly what the First Home Scheme, or the FHS, was built for. It's a government-backed shared equity scheme created with one goal in mind: to help first-time buyers and other eligible people bridge that very specific gap.
So you'll hear this term shared equity a lot. What does it actually mean? Well, the easiest way to get your head around it is to think of the First Home Scheme as a co-investor or a partner in your home purchase. They put in some of the cash you're missing, and in return, they get a percentage stake in your new home.
So to use the official language, the scheme gives you the money. They call that an equity facility, in exchange for a slice of the ownership in your property, and they call that an equity share. You own the home, you live in it, but they own a piece of it right alongside you, at least until you're in a position to buy them out.
Okay, let's make this real with some numbers. Say the house you want costs 350,000 euros. The most a lender will give you is a mortgage of 280,000 euros, and you've got your 35,000 deposit ready to go. You add it up, and you're 35,000 short. That's the gap. Well, the FHS can step in with that 35,000 euros. In exchange, they take a 10% share in the property. And just like that, the gap is closed, and you can buy the house.
Okay, so how does this whole thing actually work? Who can get it? And what are the really important rules you need to know before you even think about applying? Let's get into the nitty-gritty.
Right, here's the checklist. You've got to be over 18 and a first-time buyer, though there are a few exceptions for people in specific situations, like a separation. You need your 10% deposit, and the property price has to be under the cap for that area. But here are two really key ones. You must have mortgage approval from a lender who is part of the scheme, and you must borrow the absolute maximum amount they're willing to lend you. That's to make sure the scheme is only for people who genuinely need it to bridge a gap.
Now, this is a big one, so please pay attention here. Your mortgage has to come from what's called a participating lender. Not every bank, not every non-bank lender in Ireland is part of the scheme. This is honestly where working with an independent mortgage advisor is worth its weight in gold, because we know exactly who is in the scheme and who isn't, and we can guide you to the right place from the very start.
So you've got the keys, you're in your new home, fantastic. But that's just the beginning of the journey. To make a really smart decision, you have to understand what this agreement looks like in the long term, because it's not a typical loan.
All right, let's start with the good news. For the first 5 years you're in your home, you pay absolutely nothing on the scheme's share. Zero. It's essentially a free of charge period, which is great because it gives you time to settle in.
But once you hit year 6, things change. A service charge kicks in. It starts at 1.75% a year, and it goes up over time. Now, this is a really, really important point. Paying this charge does not reduce the amount of money you owe them. It doesn't pay down their share. It's just a fee for having the facility in place.
Okay, listen up, because if you take only one thing away from this whole explainer, it should be this. The amount of money you eventually have to repay to the scheme is not a fixed number. It's tied to the value of your home in the future. Let's go back to our 350,000 euro house. The scheme put in 35,000 euro for their 10% share. Now, let's say a few years down the line, the property market has done well, and your home is now worth 400,000 euros. Well, their 10% share is still 10%, but now it's worth 40,000 euros. So while you've gained equity, which is great, the actual cash amount you need to find to buy them out has also gone up.
So, if you've weighed all that up and you're thinking, yeah, this could still really work for me, let's quickly run through what the path to applying actually looks like.
It's a pretty clear 6-step process. First, you'll jump on their website and use the calculator to see if you're likely to be eligible. Step 2 is getting that all-important mortgage approval in principle from a lender that's in the scheme. After that, you submit your application and documents online. Then it's over to the legal side with certificates and contracts for your solicitor to handle until finally the funds are released and you can close the sale. Look, this is a huge financial decision with real long-term consequences. It's not something to be taken lightly. So let's wrap this up with the single most important piece of advice I, or any good advisor, could possibly give you. You will see this exact sentence plastered all over the official First Home Scheme website and documents, and it is there for a very, very good reason. Before you even think about signing on the dotted line, you must get professional, impartial advice from an independent financial advisor and a solicitor. It is absolutely non-negotiable.
And one final, crucial thing you've got to know. This shared equity product is not regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. Now, your mortgage is, but the FHS product itself is not. And that's a big deal because it means the usual statutory consumer protections you might expect don't necessarily apply in the same way.
So back to the big question. Is this scheme the right key to unlock your first home? For some people, it's an absolute game changer. It's the only way they can get on the property ladder. But it comes with real risks and long-term costs that you have to be completely comfortable with. And the only way to know for sure if it's right for you is to sit down with a qualified, independent advisor who can go through your personal circumstances and help you make a fully informed decision.